Hello everybody, a very warm welcome to this week's episode of our new series, Hidden Jewels of Soul and Disco Music. My name is Nadine, I'm writing for souldisco.de, and this week we're going to dive deep into disco music. As usually, this has been done in one take. If I misspell something, please bear with me. So when we talk about disco music, mainstream disco music, many names come up like the Bee Gees, there was the Saturday Night Fever soundtrack, Casey and the Sunshine Band, you know the names. But there were also labels by the mid to end of the 70s who had blockbuster albums and were blockbuster labels. And one of those labels, you guessed it totally right, is SalSoul Records. So SalSoul Records started in the mid-70s with musicians from Philadelphia International. Their contracts ran out, and so SalSoul got them under contract, and they started with releases of the SalSoul Orchestra. And I'm sure if you watched this, you have at least one of those records in your collection. And if you think releasing disco music and putting a nice looking woman on the front cover is selling like crazy, you're absolutely and totally right. So I have two examples of SalSoul Orchestra records. Here we have How High. This is the back of How High. Another one which I think is quite famous because I see it in every record store I go is Nice and Nasty by SalSoul. And they got pretty successful with that, and then they started to sign solo artists, so groups for releases of their music. And those were the likes of disco diva Lolita Holloway. We have Double Exposure, there is Carol Williams, and of course the leading ladies of disco and, for my opinion, also in house music, First Choice. And next to those names, there was one group who only released one album on SalSoul Records, but there was quite a unique album from SalSoul Records. And this group is obviously Moment of Truth. What you see here is the German cover of Moment of Truth debut album and only album, because you can see their faces. And in the other versions of that album, they were wearing masks. You can see the other cover right here. So, Moment of Truth was not just releasing an album with disco music thrown together, just releasing it and see what happens. They released an up-tempo disco concept album, if you want to call it that way. And I must admit, and you rarely hear that from me, but there's not just one weak track on that album. Loving You Is Killing Me is doing it to me. It's one of my absolutely favorite tracks. So if you just like disco music, go ahead and buy that. There are, I think, around 16 versions by now of that album. This album was released in 1976 in Japan, Brazil, Canada, UK, Germany, Italy, everywhere. It was everywhere, and it was quite successful. And you have to imagine, back in the day, if you were doing the huge clubs, the huge discos, you were it. We were not, by the 80s, we were all, like Queen, were doing huge stadium tours. That was not a thing. You were it if you were taking the stage in discos like Starship Discovery 1, Odyssey, you know, the famous big clubs. And if you were it, you were the hot, excuse my language, the hot shit. And those guys were on all of those stages. They were it. At the height of their career, they were appearing at Madison Square Garden in front of thousands of screaming fans. That was Moment of Truth. Moment of Truth starts with, we have here Billy Jones, then there's Michael Garrison, Norris Harris, and the one of the lead singers of Moment of Truth and the head of Moment of Truth, Ivery Bell. And we were very lucky to do an interview with Ivery Bell in October of 2018. So if you want to hear the real and the authentic story of Moment of Truth, you see the link in the description to get their full story, which is very, very interesting. So to make a long story short, what happened was when that album got released, you wanna grow as an artist, and that might not often be in the same interest as the record company and management. So that led to tension within the group and the management and record companies. So they split up by the beginning of the 80s, not without some material, but unfortunately till now it hadn't been released. So today we have a little special because Ivery Bell is now taking over and is telling you about his experience while recording this album, favorite songs of the album, and a little something about the story of Moment of Truth. But please stay tuned till the end of the session, because I'll introduce you to a very little something, very unique and once-in-a-lifetime soundtrack about a movie you absolutely should have. So stay tuned. Thank you. Please, Ivery, take over.
Hello everyone, this is Ivery Bell, original founding member and one of the lead singers of the group Moment of Truth. Happy to be a part of Soul Disco's Hidden Jewels of Soul and Disco Music. I want to shout out Nadine Steffens for inviting us to play a part in this, and just happy to be here. I've been asked to talk about the Moment of Truth experience and the album, my favorite songs on the album. The album looked like this. Shout out to the guys. This is the original Moment of Truth. Myself, Norris Harris, Michael Garrison. Rest in peace, Michael. He's passed away. And Billy Jones, of course, one of the finest singers to ever come out of Harlem, USA. But the Moment of Truth experience, the year was 1976 when 4 young guys walked into a studio in New York City. It was Media Sound Studio, and it was our first time recording anything, and we were just a little bit nervous, but just excited and optimistic and happy to have a chance to do what we love to do. So we'd grown up just, singing street corner harmony and in talent shows and, doing things like that. I actually started my career at the Apollo Theater in New York City at 8 years old. But we walked into the studio and we started laying these tracks. It's wonderful music. I remember one of the first records I sang a lead on was You're All I Want You to Be. And I remember the first take on You're All I Want You to Be, and I was a little nervous, my voice trembled a little bit, and they called me out and said, "You sound great, but just listen to this playback." I listened to the playback, I heard the little tremor. They said, "Now go and do it again." And I went in the second time, and magic happened, and we made that wonderful record, You're All I Want You to Be. Definitely one of my favorite records. I can't pick one, but that is one of. Helplessly. We got to talk about Helplessly. Helplessly was the biggest record on the album. A huge dance hit, huge club record all across the country and abroad. One of the most sampled and remixed songs on the album for sure. Anytime I go on YouTube and look for Helplessly, there's so many remixed versions of it. It's Tom Moulton mixes, and so many different DJs did various mixes of Helplessly. Huge hustle record, disco record. Chained to Your Love. Chained to Your Love, great record. That drum break in Chained to Your Love, sampled all over the country. That was just a very, very strong record. I mean, we used to close our show with that record. That's how much of a crowd pleaser it was and how strong it was. You had some really slick choreography and moves with that, you know, which was part of the whole Moment of Truth persona. You know, it was not just the sound, but it was also a certain look and the movements, the choreography. Proud to say I was a choreography for Moment of Truth. Pat myself on the back. So, Loving You Is Killing Me. Let's just talk about these songs. Loving You Is Killing Me. Another great record. It was actually the first 12-inch disco record. Some people may not know that. There's a little bit of disco trivia, but Moment of Truth was the first group to release a 12-inch disco record, which in this case was Loving You Is Killing Me. Huge record overseas, and very much just like Chained to Your Love was a show closer, Loving You Is Killing Me was a show opener. Great record. So Much for Love, great hustle record. People love to do the hustle to that record. Loved it, loved it, loved it. You Got Me Humming. I remember that one like it was yesterday. You Got Me Humming was a great, like, up-tempo, happy song. It was a summer record, and we actually did a trial release of it in the winter, like around Christmas time. But it was apparent that it should be a summer song. It had that feel to it, that kind of energy. So we re-released it in the summer, and that record did very well as well. At Long Last, another huge record for Moment of Truth, and from what I understand, it did extremely well in Japan. And I used to love the movements on that record. It's really great, really great. So I can't pick a favorite record. There's no favorite. I love them all. We had so much fun making that music, so much fun performing that music. And, you know, as I said, that was a time where music was just time-stamped our lives, and it was a time of disco and the dancing and all of that wonderful energy, all of the clubs, Studio 54 in New York. Moment of Truth also played for the premiere of Saturday Night Fever. That was Starship Discovery in Brooklyn, New York. Moment of Truth, Sister Sledge. Also, let's shout out SalSoul Records. Such a wonderful label. SalSoul Records gave you not only Moment of Truth, but gave you Double Exposure, First Choice, Carol Williams, Eddie Holman, Joe Bataan, so much wonderful, Lita Holloway, so much wonderful talent. Also, a couple of compilation albums that we did with all of those artists on it. The Disco Boogie album. You might want to look for that as well. I'll just show the cover again in case you don't have it. You might want to go out and get it and add it to your collection. And aside from that, I hope to see you guys again soon. I hope, you know, in these uncertain times, but things are getting better. And the expectation is that in 2021, at least from the mid to the latter part of the year, that the live concerts will open up again. And you know, we look forward to getting on the road, going on tour, and performing at a venue near you. And come on out and boogie with us. Come on out and have a good time. Put your dancing shoes on, and let's make it do what it do. So with that, I'm just going to wish you all well until we meet again. Once again, shout out to Nadine Steffens for inviting myself and the whole Moment of Truth experience to be a part of Soul Disco Hidden Jewels presentation. Until we meet again, I wish you love, peace, and blessings.
Thank you very much, Ivory, for that unique and special insight. We really appreciate that. Thank you for telling the story and taking the time to do this. So I promised you at the beginning of this video that we have a little something, a very special little something for you. And I'll put that aside. I have to be careful because my version of the record, this is, by the way, the back of the record. Here you can see the usually cover which has been used on most of the records. You know, it's somehow falling apart. I also want to show you the label of the record. That's the label. You can see normal SalSoul record label from that period of time. What we have here is the soundtrack to a movie Ivory told me about that he was, the group Moment of Truth was playing a part in. And the movie was called Nocturna. I hope I spelled that correct. So I did a little research, and the movie is about a female vampire coming to New York to find a man in the hottest clubs in town. Today we would call that B-movie. It was shot between October and I think November in 1979. So, well, that's the soundtrack to it. And it's special because there's one song from Moment of Truth who also did 2 soundtrack songs for that album. And that was Love at First Sight, which is only available on this record. It wasn't released on their debut album. And surprisingly for me, this is a great soundtrack. It has the likes of Vicky Sue Robinson and Gloria Gaynor. And I was expecting at least one of those 2 songs from Gloria Gaynor. I Will Survive, because if you've been haunted by a female vampire, you absolutely want to survive. Or I Never Can Say Goodbye, because if you've been bitten by a vampire, you're never going to die, so you never can say goodbye anyway. So I don't know the end of the movie. I only seen snippets. Like I said, a quite unique movie. So it was produced and starring by Nui. I hope I spelled it right. Nui Bonet. That's her. If you have a name like this, Nui Bonet, you're becoming a model, an actress, or a news anchor woman, or 3 of them. So coming to the tracks on that album. It is included Gloria Gaynor's Love Is Just a Heartbeat Away in a remixed version with 7 minutes, and Nighttime Fantasy. It's one of my favorites by Vicky Sue Robinson. It's almost 10 minutes, so the whole first side. It's a double LP, whole first side has just these 2 tracks. And like I said, there is also I'm Helplessly in Love with You by Moment of Truth, which you can also find on their debut album, and Love at First Sight, which you only can find here. I can only recommend this. Also, if you like disco music, you're gonna love Nocturna. Yeah, do I have the labels up here? It's an ordinary MCA label from this release. I'll show you the label. I hope you can, by MCA, correct. I hope you can somehow see that. That's the label. And for me, it's very important to show you also some records which you can afford, and is not like, oh, this is like starting from 100 euro. So you can get these great disco albums between, I think the German version starts from 10 euro. You can get, because it was sold like crazy back in the day, you can get, so there are many copies, so you can get the other version, I think, starting by $5. And Nocturna soundtrack is about between $5 to $10, and you have 3 LPs with outstanding great disco music. So you absolutely shouldn't miss that. So yeah, that's it for this week. Stay healthy, stay safe, and see you next week, guys. Bye.